An American aircraft carrier is often called a floating city, carrying more than 5,000 sailors and over 70 aircraft. But could Iran actually destroy one of these giants? The answer is far more complicated than most people think, because somewhere beneath the mountains of Iran, hidden from every satellite that passes overhead, entire cities of missiles are waiting. Not bunkers, not silos, cities. Tunnels stretching for miles, carved into solid rock, built to survive the very airstrikes designed to erase them. And the world may not find out how real this threat is until it's already too late. At first glance, the Strait of Hormuz looks almost insignificant, a narrow ribbon of water squeezed between Iran and Oman, barely noticeable on a world map. But appearances can be dangerously misleading. Every sunrise, hundreds of ships carrying the fuel that powers cities, industries, and entire nations pass through this single corridor. It is one of the few places on Earth where geography alone has the power to reshape the global economy. Military planners don't simply see a waterway here. They see a pressure point capable of influencing the balance of power across continents. That is why aircraft carriers patrol these waters, surveillance aircraft circle overhead, and intelligence agencies monitor every unusual movement. In this region, even a routine naval exercise can send oil markets into panic. For decades, Iran has understood something its rivals often underestimate. It cannot outbuild the United States Navy. It cannot match the firepower of a carrier strike group ship for ship. So instead of trying to win a conventional war it could never win, Iran built something else entirely. A strategy built on denial rather than domination. Military analysts call it anti-access, area denial, or A2/AD. In simple terms, Iran doesn't need to defeat the American military. It only needs to make the cost of attacking so unbearable that no one wants to try. And the centerpiece of that strategy isn't visible from space. It's buried underground, sometimes hundreds of feet beneath solid rock, in facilities Iranian state media has proudly nicknamed missile cities. These aren't simple storage depots. They are sprawling underground complexes with rail systems, launch corridors, command centers, and living quarters for the crews who operate them. Some analysts believe Iran has built dozens of these facilities scattered across the country, many of them hidden inside mountain ranges specifically chosen because the rock above them is thick enough to absorb the force of conventional bunker-busting bombs. Iranian state television has occasionally released footage from inside these facilities, and the images are unsettling precisely because of how ordinary they look. Rows of ballistic missiles lined up like subway cars, waiting on rail platforms deep underground. Officers walking through corridors wide enough to move heavy launch vehicles. It's easy to dismiss this as propaganda, and some of it certainly is. But Western intelligence agencies have independently confirmed that many of these underground networks are real, extensive, and far more advanced than they were a decade ago. The logic behind this approach traces back to a lesson Iran learned the hard way. In 1981, Israeli fighter jets destroyed Iraq's Osirak nuclear reactor in a single, devastating airstrike. The facility was above ground, exposed, and vulnerable. Iranian military planners studied that strike for years afterward, and the conclusion they reached was simple. Anything you build on the surface can be found, targeted, and destroyed in minutes. Anything you bury deep enough might survive. That single lesson reshaped Iran's entire defense doctrine. Instead of building a handful of large, easily targeted bases, Iran spread its missile forces across a vast, redundant network. If one facility is destroyed, others remain untouched. If one tunnel entrance collapses, missiles can still be moved through alternate routes deep underground. It's a strategy built on survival through dispersion, and it fundamentally changes how any future conflict with Iran would actually unfold. To understand why this matters, you have to understand what Iran actually keeps inside these tunnels. At the core of its arsenal are ballistic missiles like the Shahab and Ahmad families, along with newer solid fuel systems such as the Fateh and Khaybar Sheikhan. missiles designed to be launched faster and with greater precision than their older liquid-fueled predecessors. Iran has also invested heavily in anti-ship ballistic missiles, weapons specifically designed to threaten large naval targets, including aircraft carriers, from hundreds of miles away. Range is only part of the equation. What makes these tunnel networks genuinely dangerous is mobility. Many of Iran's missile launchers are mounted on transporter erector launchers, vehicles that can drive out of a hidden tunnel entrance, fire within minutes, and disappear back underground before a satellite even has time to reposition overhead. This is often called the shoot and scoot tactic, and it's notoriously difficult to counter. You cannot bomb what you cannot see, and by the time you locate the launcher, it may already be gone. Then there's the geography itself, which works almost as a weapon of its own. The Zagros Mountains, running diagonally across western and southern Iran, provide natural cover, unlike almost anywhere else in the Middle East. Layers of granite and limestone, some of them hundreds of meters thick, are far denser than the reinforced concrete used in most conventional bunkers. Even America's most powerful bunker-busting bomb, the GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrator, weighing around 30,000 pounds, is estimated to penetrate roughly 200 feet of hardened rock under ideal conditions. Some of Iran's deepest facilities are believed to sit well beyond that threshold. This creates an uncomfortable truth for military planners. Even a successful strike on a known entrance might not destroy what's stored deep inside. It might only seal the door. Iran's ability to strike with precision isn't theoretical. In January 2020, following the killing of General Qasem Soleimani, Iran launched a barrage of ballistic missiles at Ain al-Asad Air Base in Iraq, a facility housing American forces. Roughly a dozen missiles struck the base with startling accuracy, causing significant structural damage and traumatic brain injuries to more than 100 U.S. service members, though notably no fatalities. It was widely seen as a calculated message. Iran had demonstrated it could hit a well-defended American installation with precision-guided weapons launched from its own soil, something few analysts had fully appreciated before that night. Then came April and October 2024, when Iran launched two unprecedented direct missile and drone attacks against Israel, involving hundreds of projectiles in coordinated waves. Most were intercepted by a multinational air defense effort involving Israel, the United States, and regional partners. But the sheer scale of those launches revealed something important. Iran's missile production and launch capacity had grown far beyond what many intelligence assessments had predicted just years earlier. So what would actually happen if a full-scale conflict erupted between Iran and a coalition led by the United States? The opening hours would likely look nothing like the wars most people picture. Instead of columns of tanks crossing a border, the first moves would happen in the dark, underground, and largely invisible to the public. Iran would almost certainly attempt to disperse its mobile launchers before the first bombs even fell, scattering them into the mountains, coastal caves, and hardened valleys where satellites struggled to maintain constant coverage. The Strait of Hormuz would become the immediate flashpoint. Even a partial disruption, achieved not through full closure but through mining, fast-attack boat swarms, or the credible threat of anti-ship missiles, could be enough to send global oil prices soaring within hours. Naval analysts widely agree that closing the strait entirely for a long period is a difficult, if not unrealistic, goal for Iran, but it doesn't need to. The threat alone, sustained for even a few days, could cause billions of dollars in economic disruption before a single tanker is actually hit. Meanwhile, any American or Allied strike aimed at neutralizing Iran's missile cities would likely require weeks, not days, of sustained operations. Intelligence gathering, repeated bombing runs, and battle damage assessments would all be needed just to confirm whether deeply buried facilities had actually been destroyed or merely damaged. And with mobile launchers already dispersed, some capability would almost certainly survive the opening strikes, capable of launching retaliatory attacks against regional bases, shipping lanes, or Gulf allies. The consequences of such a conflict would ripple far beyond the Persian Gulf almost immediately. Roughly a fifth of the world's oil supply moves through the Strait of Hormuz, and any sustained disruption would send shockwaves through economies already sensitive to energy price swings. Asian markets, heavily dependent on Gulf oil imports, would likely feel the pain first, followed quickly by fuel price surges across Europe and North America. Politically, the ripple effects would be just as significant. Gulf states like Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates, despite years of quiet diplomatic thaw with Iran, could find themselves caught in the crossfire, their oil infrastructure and airspace suddenly part of a wider war they never chose to join. And militarily, any prolonged engagement would test the endurance of American forces stretched across multiple global commitments, from Europe to the Indo-Pacific, at a time when strategic attention is already divided. Perhaps the most unsettling part of this entire story isn't the missiles themselves, it's the uncertainty they create. Nobody, not American intelligence agencies, not Israeli military planners, not even Iran's own regional rivals, knows with complete confidence how many of these underground cities exist, how deep they truly run, or how many missiles are waiting inside them at any given moment. And in modern warfare, that uncertainty can be just as powerful as the weapons themselves, because the greatest deterrent isn't always the missile you can see coming. Sometimes, it's the one